pulling it out of the fire. Oh yeah, she's red. She is definitely red. I don't know if I can show that on camera. Maybe not. Here we go. We're getting ready to run. Howdy everybody out there in YouTube land. This is Amateur Artist Mark D. Chandler once again from Man Land, and today is the day we're going to try to destroy this Dollar General store cast iron pan utilizing the fire and then doing something to it you're not supposed to do. What that is, well, you get to find out. Gonna get the fire started, throw the pan back in the fire, and then let's see what happens. We've got ourselves an assortment of woods there in this particular fire, and I think it's gonna do pretty good. It's not a very large fire, but should be fine for the cast iron. Now let's see if that holds up. Seems to. It's holding on top. We're gonna let that cast iron heat back up, just like as if you're trying to strip it, but we're not going to strip the cast iron. We're going to cool it down very rapidly and see if the cast iron cracks or breaks or possibly maybe even explode. Now I'm not going to let this pan go too much longer. I want to try this test on the lower heated side. I'm not going to try to get the pan cherry red or orange at this point. But I got myself a 5-gallon bucket right here. It's not a pretty bucket. It's an old dirty 5-gallon bucket there, and it's got tap water from out of the water hose. Got that chlorine swimming around in there. Ah, yeah. Yeah, we're about to do this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set the camera looking down inside the bucket, and very quickly I'm going to take that pan off the fire and I'm going to dunk it in the water. And as soon as I do, I'm getting the heck out of there, because I have no idea if this thing is going to explode metal or not. I don't know. Think about it this way, folks. You've always heard not to do this. Not to rapidly cool down your cast iron, because it can damage it. We're about to put it to the test, just on what we got set up right now. Yeah, the pan's starting to get a little white. I think it's hot enough to give it a try. Yeah, I'd say she's heating up pretty daggum good right now. Not exactly to the point that it's removing the seasonings, but you start to see a little gray area in there. The black's turning gray. That means it's starting to affect the seasonings. Which that right there is a pretty daggum hot skillet. And the way it's sitting on the fire, the handle is not getting as hot as the rest of the pan. It's going to be a very interesting test. Alright, I'm going to use this grabber thing right here. I'm going to be out of frame grabbing this cast iron. And it's fairly hot. And here we go, folks. I'm standing well away. I didn't hear a crack. I didn't hear a boom. I didn't hear a tinkle. But I sure see all that daggum debris. There's still some bubbles going on. I'm going to let that water do its thing, and we'll check it for damage. I think if anything has been done to it, that would be a little bit more than superheated. And let's see if it's cool to the touch. Yeah, actually it is. And looking at it right now, visually, it don't look like anything's really wrong with it. Still got some dirt, debris on there. Oh, it's from the board. Let me wash it off. Hold on, folks. Let me get the camera readjusted so y'all can take a better gander of it. Got soot all over my hands, but that's to be expected. I don't know how well it's going to show up there, but there does not appear to be any cracks, warpage, or anything. Oh, that's interesting. Part of the seating, let me find it here. Part of the seating right there is actually flaking off. Yeah, it got high enough to start removing that seasoning. But hey, it looks flat. Doesn't look like it's warped. And if you can hear it because the car's going by. It's a Sunday. It's a daggum church shoppers. I think that's what they are. Yeah. Got a good little ring to it. Handle doesn't appear to be detached or anything. That's not bad. But you know what? I'm going to throw this back in the fire and we're going to superheat this thing. Got to add more wood. And I'm going to clean this bucket of water out so it be kind of nice and pretty again for another go around. Am I going to be able to destroy this thing? I mean, they tell you not to do this kind of stuff. And I'm just curious. I've never seen it done. Got it back in the fire pit there, yep. And we added some very dry pine. A little thicker than I'd like to use all the way around. But we're going to let this dude do his thing. And that wind sure does help. Well, I just want to say this right here also. I'm an ex-firefighter. I'm more than retired now. Actually, I was a volunteer firefighter for about 14 years. And one of the things that normally survives in a house fire happens to be some cast iron cookware of some sort or another. And this temperature here on this fire is in no way the recorded temperatures of a house fire. This is very mild compared. But for some reason, cast iron does seem to survive intact for the most part. But there's also that possibility that the heat damage will set in and you're not able to put another seasoning on the cast iron. Well, we're not going to test that now because I do expect to try to destroy this cast iron by dousing it again after I get it hotter than what you see now. And if it happens to survive, well, we'll do the seasoning process, because I think if this cast iron does survive this dunking, I think you can agree with me. It deserves to be treated like cast iron. Part of the family here at Manland. But I don't think it's going to. Hey, I've heard the myth just like y'all. Here we go, folks. The time is counting down. And I think we're about ready to try this one more time. Yep. It's starting to get red. Could be reflection of the fire. I don't know. This is still daytime. Overcast skies right now. The handle's sticking out, so it's cooler than the rest. These are uneven temperatures here, which should cause stress on this piece of cast iron. We're finna dunk it. So the next scene is going to be the camera suspended again once above that 5-gallon bucket. And let's try it. The camera's above the bucket. The water temperature's been sitting out here for a little bit. It's yard temperature. Here we go, folks. I'm grabbing the cast iron. Pulling it out of the fire. Oh yeah, she's red. She is definitely red. I don't know if I can show that on camera. Maybe not. Here we go. We're getting ready to run. Wow, I didn't hear a boom, and I didn't hear a crack. That don't mean nothing, I just didn't hear it. I was going to try to show you the glow, but I figured it was cooling down too quick. Just that quick. Let me reposition the camera here. I noticed something. I'll get my shadow out of the way. It looks like the handle was hot enough to actually melt into the side of the bucket here. And let me see if that's so. Oh, it's stuck. It's really stuck. Oh, there we go. And it did. It actually melted into the bucket with all that water. Wow. Now the moment of truth. Is it cool to the touch? It should be. Man, that water is that water has really warmed up. Not enough to make cocoa, but that's actually nice warm water. That's how you instantly heat some water if you need some. I wouldn't recommend you using your cast iron though. Wow, look at the discoloration there. Look at that orange. Oh man, it's got all kind of weird colors and anomalies to it. Now this right here, I don't know if that's... People refer to this as heat damage to your cast iron. And I don't know what else to say, but I'm inclined to agree. It definitely doesn't look pretty. It's a little thin coat. Is that some type of oxidation, or what could that be? Who knows? But first, visual appearances. Some of that excess off of there. It does not appear to be damaged or cracked. It appears that way right at the moment. Let's take this to the picnic table. Get a closer look at it. Here it is at the picnic table. Yeah. And it has some very interesting patterns and color to it. Very interesting. And that right there, folks, is what most people refer to as fire damage. You can tell it has been in a fire. There's no doubt about that. Some of the interesting works here is this brownish red. Look at how it peels off. It's almost like it's instant iron oxide, but I really don't know what that is. But it does come off and it's chipping off. That could be part of the seasonings. Didn't quite completely burn up. I did re-season this pan after y'all saw me do that video. Well, I gave it a couple of quick seasonings. I didn't actually pay attention to it because I wasn't that interested in trying to get the seasonings to work at that point. I just didn't want the pan to rust and look too bad, you know, before I could try to destroy this thing with this particular technique. Wow, what is all this flaking? That is something else. Now, this right here happens to be rust. I let the water draw for the most part, but that rust, or flash rust, it's kind of interesting in itself. That's the inside of the pan, as you can tell. The handle's in still good shape. It was bent like that when it was bought. It's the way it's made. Trying to give you a good overlook there. But the pan is not warped. It's not cracked. I mean, other than the so-called fire damage, the pan is intact. Folks, I did discover something. It did a little bit of damage. I'm going to show you. I had Wee Wee to help me check it, and she seen it as well as I did. Alright, I swapped out card. This is the old Kroger card, and I don't know if this is going to show up on camera, but you can see, hopefully you can see, the shadow of my finger running in the middle from behind the card. And I was trying to get to where that light would show, but it is so minute, but it is definitely there. Try to get the camera steady. I should have this on a tripod, but the card sits and there's a gap right there. That little shadow at the very bottom of the card is my finger rubbing across like this from the opposite side, trying to get it to show up. And that's it. That's the only damage I can see. So in conclusion, folks, according to the test, superheating some cast iron and then quickly cooling it down in an instant, well, I'm not going to say it's not going to damage your pan, but it didn't damage this one. And I really did expect it to. And I put it to the test. I wanted to see this thing go boom or do something. But it's still got a nice little ring to it. If there's a crack in it anywhere, it is not showing its face here on the outside anywhere. So what am I going to do now? I think I'm going to clean it up, and we're going to see if it will hold a seasoning, because I think it's earned that stage. And if it doesn't work on the seasoning process, it don't hold it, well, I guess we'll have to think of another way to try to finally destroy a piece of cast iron outside its normal use. Cast iron is not as fragile as most people may seem to think. But I still would not recommend you do this with your vintage cast iron, or even the thin pieces of cast. Not at all. I don't really recommend you even do it with the thick stuff, because I've already done it. You don't have to, unless you just want to. You know, that's up to you. Well, it's not the result I expected and even hoped for, but this is a tough little piece of cast iron. So folks, superheating your cast iron can cause it to damage. It can warp a little bit. In this case, a very tiny bit. But then again, it wasn't the boom that I was expecting. I would have loved to have seen that. So folks, until next time, this is amateur artist Mark D. Chandler, once again from Manland, wishing you and y'all a very happy YouTube experience out there. And together, we can either confirm or deny the myths, but if anything, we learn. And we have fun while we're doing it. Yeah. I'm still going to re-season this puppy. Let's see if it takes a seasoning now. I'm wondering something here. You can see the light through the card, but was this way when I bought it? I didn't check that part. I ain't doing the test again. I'm done.